And welcome back, everybody, once again to the PCS Spring Split 2022. We've had an absolute banger of a game to kick us off, but we are certainly going to have no shortage of that today. All right, Nightstar, before we get into this one, I want to thank our wonderful sponsors yet again, CTBC Bank and, of course, Caliber. Thank you for making the PCS possible. Now, Nightstar, CTBC Bank are Taiwan's top financial institution, but they're not stopping there because they've also got a pretty solid League of Legends team, it turns out. And despite yesterday's performance, I still think this matchup against Deep Cross is set to be a very, very good one.
Yeah, I mean, it's still set up to be a very important match at the very least. We'll see how DCG bounce back from this, from their previous game, which they just freshly lost to PSG Talon. So that's always something to keep in mind. But it looked like they were finding their stride towards the end of that game, so I'm not too worried about them as a team, but I am a little bit concerned about CFO because CFO yesterday was not a good day for them.
No, after a very, very dominating performance and potentially just a bit of a one-off loss against Megabank Beyond Gaming, they dropped two. One to PSG where they got very controlled, and then another one against J-Team. I know we were talking about this in some of the pre-chat, and definitely seemed like maybe their shot calling has some issues.
Yeah, I think a lot of their issues stem from Gemini needing to be the main engage, but a lot of the times he's so used to being one of the tertiary carries on his squad because in Machi it was Lee Kai, Gemini, and Jimian that were really it was about those three being the big carries, and then they were also willing to kind of split the engage load, right? You would have Jimian on the Silas be willing to engage, you have Lee Kai on the Camille willing to engage, but in this squad, Rest and Mission aren't really those kinds of players, so as a result, you've seen Koala take some very questionable engages like the Renata, taking the Rise ultimate into the middle of the team and trying to hit them with the Renata ult, but at the same time, it's almost understandable because this is a dynamic Gemini's not super used to, and Koala is being forced into a role that he's also not really comfortable with, but willing to accept. So since then we kind of need them to bounce back, show us a little bit more than just laning prowess.
Yeah, and that has really carried CTBC Flying Oyster for a while now, is just being superior laners, and even in the bot lane where we kind of expected Atlan to maybe be the weak link in the chain, he certainly wasn't. But if this team is forced into picking their fights, they do seem to have trouble making that choice. When the fight is taken to them, their counter engage is usually pretty solid, and that's what I was kind of wondering when we got to see our Renata Glass pick up yesterday. Was that going to be great for the counter engage as expected? But unfortunately, they were kind of forcing the issue, and it's not a great engage champion, so I wonder if they go for it again, if it makes sense this time to try and play back. But we'll talk about that once we get into picks and bans. We got to compare our top laners because Rest definitely brings the experience, but Leaky has brought the power to this Deep Cross side.
He's really shown a lot in this split, being able to play a number of carries, also a very diverse champion pool. Both of these players did also play Malphite in their last game, and both of them did not do well on the Malphite in this last game. So we'll see if that ends up showing up in this draft once more. But the last time we saw this matchup, it was really Nesty that influenced this matchup rather than Leaky and Rest taking the individual 1v1. It was a whole lot of 3v1 or 2v1 for Rest, and he was just constantly getting ganked over and over again. He was 0-3 very early on. It looked like he was out of the game, but he had a fantastic GP performance and really saved the game for his team.
Yeah, I think it was hard to keep a good GP down, and Rest definitely showed up in that one. That, of course, was the game that rounded out our week 2 when we got to see the battle of the prior J teamers, if you will. I'm curious to see which one is going to be better, which one is going to be K team, and which one is going to be L team. But we are into picks and bans. We see the Orianna and the Syndra being removed from Mission, 2 champions he is incredibly powerful on, and this shows that CFO definitely want to give Mission, or excuse me, this shows that Deep Cross Gaming definitely want to give Nesty a better time in lane, because I think that was the first time he got a little bit more neutralized. This Vigar was very, very slow to build stacks.
Yes, that was definitely true. Mission had complete control of that 1v1 matchup, and it was really Nesty leaving lane as much as possible to try and influence the rest of the map. As a result, his Veigar really suffered as a champion. Now, between these two teams, the big priority pick is going to be still the Jinx Rise. I think DCG want that Rise pick and are willing to play the Aphelios with it, but with Gwen left available, it does look like that will be the priority, and it makes a lot of sense still. Like, Leaky, that last Gwen performance was nuts, because that was in the game against Beyond Gaming where it looked like it was all but done, but he seemingly pulled his team back into it.
Yeah, I think you can definitely trust in Leaky when he has his hands on a carry. Of course, it does mean CFO get the opportunity to pick up the Jinx side of the matchup and Gemini's Lee Sin as well, a champion that both these teams would want, especially with Xin Zhao off the table. But with Hecarim rising in priority for the last couple of weeks around the world, it would make a lot of sense to add this. You do have 2 champions that can kind of run at your face. And, you know, we have been seeing quite a lot of triple dive coming in for our teams here in the PCS, and I think it could certainly work. Nesty been playing a lot more of the standard type of champions, air quote standard, but we could see another big dive wombo combo as the Galio comes in. I believe they banned this away from him in the past.
So the Galio comes forward, and this can still be a flex into that support role. So it's not a bad option to show right here. And if it ends up playing into something like the Rise, you're perfectly fine with accepting that matchup, because you have a little bit more range with your Galio ultimate over that Rise ult. And with this lock-in coming in for rest here on that Graves, I would expect DCG to go ahead and just ban away that Rise and then move that Galio into the mid lane. But other options, if they manage to somehow get the Rise themselves here, they could run the Rise Galio and then perhaps run a Sivir. I think that would be a really insane composition, because you just run people down and there's really no options to outplay because you're running at max speed. That would be an interesting take. Or I mean, you're perfectly fine still running that Galio into the mid lane because of the earlier reasons I stated.
Yeah, you know, the flip side of obviously picking that Galio up on the rotation does mean that, of course, Aphelios gets banned, but you were talking about the possibility of a Sivir for Cascada. I would love to see that. I think it fits perfectly with what they're trying to do here with, you know, kind of the just run at them comp. And CFO definitely throwing a lot of bans. They actually dip into the pool and go for Kai'Sa against Deep Cross. I actually believe when I was looking at the Korean solo queue stats for Cascada before the split started, looking him up, he seemed like he did have a lot of Kai'Sa games in the split, but obviously it hasn't been a high priority here in the PCS, falling off, of course, in favor of, you know, the 2 Titans that have been Jinx, Aphelios, and the occasional Zeri game. We have seen a couple other picks from him so far. It's actually going to be the Azir ban, by the way, that they wanted to take Mission off of. So they are happy to let the Rise through if Mission wants to play it.
Yeah, Rise left available in here. It, of course, means that...
Are we going to get a Corki in the PCS?
I'm not going to get excited quite yet until he gets locked in, because
yeah!
It's possible.
Why did we took 4 weeks to get here. 4 weeks.
Pyra.
But we got a Corki in the PCS. Also flip side, we got Xayah Rakan too. Completely forgot about that combination.
All right. It's going to be a Xayah Rakan, so adding a little bit of extra range here. Also, with the lethality build here, because you have a decent amount of magic damage across your team, they'll probably prioritize a little bit more magic resistance, so you can get value out of the lethality build. Also adds range to deal with the Jinx and the Corki, so it's not a bad option here. And we get a Leona locked in for our last pick. So the Leona pick makes a lot of sense in the CFO dynamic, right? They're lacking a little bit of just clear, hard engage, and the Lee Sin doesn't necessarily provide that, as he needs clear flank angles or summoner timings to actually pull those off. So the Leona makes a whole lot of sense here. So all in all, I'm so glad we get to see a Corki. This pick
y'all don't
has
know how long Nightstar has been waiting for this.
Oh man, I thought this champion was just forgotten.
Yeah.
But thank God somebody remembered, and it fits CFO's playstyle perfectly, right? Mission, he's been kind of dubbed the PCS Chovy, where he gets a lot of lane leads, but he doesn't necessarily immediately translate it into just kills straight up. And I think Corki is like the perfect champion, because you get into those team fights, you can just rain infinite amounts of damage from infinite range, and that's where the oppression really starts to kick in. However, on the flip side for DCG, they have a decent amount of response to it, right? If you get into the backline with that Hecarim, you throw down the Galio ultimate, you get that magic damage shield from the Galio ultimate as well, and then you also have the Gwen just rampaging into the backline. So I think this is a great setup for DCG to take care of the strong points of CFO, but for CFO, they get a insanely strong scaling composition.
Absolutely, and for CFO, they had taken a little bit of their time in some of their games, hadn't punished them in the past. This week has proved to be a little different, as they are facing down an 0-2. Would like to pick up a win to close things out up against Deep Cross. When these teams last met in week 2, it was a very close game, with the Flying Oysters taking away the win at the end of the day. We'll see if they can make it 2-0 on the split, or if results will change, with Mission now on our first Corki of the PCS. Nightstar, it took us a while, but we got there in the end.
Oh, we finally hit it. Oh my god, I'm so excited. I love Corki because he just does, again, he does infinite damage. And if you're a fan of damage stats, this is the champion. But Fuscata is running that summoner area, which means that it is going to be a lethality Xayah. And this is really just to be able to match some of the range coming out from the Corki Jinx. So it makes a lot of sense in that notion.
Yep, of course, the first strike on the Corki for Mission as well. As we get underway here, double teleports on both sides. Leaky going for the more team-oriented summoners rather than trying to burn down rest. I do think that's going to be a top lane that should definitely favor Leaky, as he does have sustain early on with that Grasp of the Undying. But once they get into the team fights, of course, Gwen does a lot of pretty disgusting damage herself.
I mean, these two top laners are going to kind of scale in different fashions. And when it comes to the team fighting especially, it's more about front-loaded damage with the Graves and a lot about the chase down potential coming in more so from Gwen and being able to get in. And Mission really asserting his dominance. He's already level 2, has that level lead, just standing in front of the wave, making sure that Nessie has to overextend his own positioning in order to get access to his, to be able to hit those minions in that backline.
Yeah, and we saw Mission able to do this last time they met as well. Nessie on the Vigard definitely had trouble keeping pace as much and stacking up on his own side. And Mission Syndra was, of course, a big, deep damage burst threat. Corki a little bit more consistent damage out of this one. So as we keep track in this game, we'll see if Mission can widen the lead. Maybe they can roam, translate that into something. It's not been something they've done a ton of, but there's always that opportunity. And for the side of CFO, we will see what they're going to be able to do with lane leads in this game.
Yeah, so one of the big reasons why I kind of assumes that we wouldn't be seeing a whole lot of Corki in our PCS meta has been the fact that Corki not really good at being able to just shove the lane out and then contest that river area where a lot of our teams seem to want to go for early invades with their junglers. So it's important to get mid priority in that case for a lot of these mid laners. And given the fact that Corki isn't typically one of those champions that gets mid priority that easily, I think that's why we haven't seen it as much. But against Segalia, where you are able to kind of zone him off the minions and force him to at least give up a lot of resources to try and make these roams, it makes a lot of sense in that regard.
That's true. Already has just about a wave ahead. Ooh, Woody a little bit careful there as he walks through Tribrush, and Koala and Atlan are able to tag him with a little bit of damage as well. Curious to see how that bot lane goes, too. We have seen a little bit of Xayah Rakan coming in. When you can get the pair of them, it does add that extra range. Makes it a little bit easier, as you mentioned in pick ban, to avoid some of the long-range damage. We'll be keeping an eye on Gemini as he backs, comes up towards top side. Might make a play up there early on.
Yeah, we'll see what he's able to do. I think he just wants to make sure there's not going to be some sort of dive set up over in that top side with Hana. Of course, double ghost, so great opportunity to just force out a flash and easily revisit right after. But Leaky could be in trouble.
Does land the Sonic Wave. It's going to just force him out of lane right now. That's going to buy Rest some decent time here. But Hana, meanwhile, on the bottom, will get spotted as soon as he leaves this brush, but he could go for the early Hecarim play. Atlan's a little bit forward. Early heal and a flash. That's going to be Koala actually stopping. Heavy investment by the CTBC bot lane to stop that gank in its tracks.
And that's why Hecarim's just such a great jungler. Even though we haven't necessarily seen the results, all you have to do is pop Ghost, run out of bush with your E, and immediately they have to just force out summoners. And then you can easily revisit those lanes right after. That's the big, really the big talking point when it comes to these Hecarim picks. But we just haven't seen a whole lot of that in particular. And now that, of course, he has the Lucidity boots as well, it makes that cooldown on the Ghost that much shorter. So if this lane phase continues on, you will see these lanes get pressured in that manner.
That is one of the more frustrating things to see when we have had so many Hecarims, that they just kind of tend to wait for 6, but Hana gets in early this time. I really like the fact that he took advantage of the timing and knowing where Gemini's position was to be able to make that play. It means that there's a really nice window to try and repeat down bottom and really try to get Criscata and Woody off to a flying start. Nesty does manage to get the taunt on the Shield of Duran, but Mission does turn back some damage a little too deep as he tanked a tower shot on that one. But no harm, no lasting harm done. He's just going to have to back and buy.
Yeah, and Nesty is on a bit of a recall timer anyways, doesn't have a whole lot of mana, so he's going to go ahead and recall. It does mean that there's an opportunity bot side if Gemini is able to find the play for the side of DCG to be in a spot where they can't necessarily answer.
Okay, Hana waiting. I don't think they spotted him just yet here. It could be a 3v3 if it comes down to it. I don't know if Hana knows Gemini's here. Now he has to. There we go. Sonic Wave comes out and the game is up.
Everyone knows where they are.
Ooh, but they want to make the play. Want it. That's going to be the grand entrance, and Atlan already low, and no summoners. First blood on the last feather for Criscata. Well executed by the deep cross bot side.
Yeah, the speed of the engage is really just taking Atlan by surprise. Hana, this is even without the ghost, but you expend that flash coming in from Woody, and it's a really, really nice engage coming in from DCG. So they find the pick, and CFO, they're going to try really hard to hold this wave as much as they can. And they're going to be successful just because the side of DCG, they want to get their buys in. They don't want to hang around too long and force themselves in a really poor position.
Yeah, Deep Cross definitely seemed to be off to a good start, very proactive. You know, we talked about how it can be tough to play after a loss like they just suffered against PSG, but seems like the mental is strong here, Nightstar.
Yeah, and towards the end of the game, you saw that they were calling for these plays a lot clearer as they looked for a mid play.
Yeah, that's going to be the Valk. Ooh, flash forward. He will nail the taunt. That is enough to take Mission down. Juggling the aggro best they can.
Beautiful.
Nesty does take a little bit, but well executed for a second kill on the board.
Absolute perfection there coming in from DCG. Yes, it took, it was a little bit close, a little bit tight on the window, but do they go? Okay, I think Woody walked past and didn't get spotted. But nonetheless, there isn't any mid laner, so DCG should be able to secure this Rift Herald fairly easily. that gives them a lot of pressure for this map on that next push. I expect that to go either into one of these side lanes, really just either of them. But it could also just be helped set up by a Nesty ultimate, because he has been sitting on that one for a little bit now.
Yeah, that's one threat we haven't seen yet. And we'll have to see if they want to go for the combo. Remember, this was what they picked for, to try and get it deep into the backline. It does kind of have a bit of an anti-synergy with the onslaught of shadows, but it is all about the timing, right? Like, you don't have to drop everything on a big fight. It's not necessarily the wombo combo that we're used to seeing with the Galio. The likes of a Camille, we saw Meta Falcon team do that in one of their earliest games of the split. Whereas this Galio can kind of be a little bit more all over the place. Oh my goodness! Atlan did not see that one coming. Kriskata flashes forward for the auto attack, and Koala just has no damage. Deep Cross's bot side is crushing it.
They are straight fire, baby. I think Atlan was surprised by that lethality damage because he just did not know what hit him. Also doesn't have the flash available, so that's coming back now, but an important summoner too that they were able to keep track of. Gemini encroaching on the Kriskata, no ultimate on him, remember.
No, they do have the Rakan though, and they're actually going to bring the hero.
Galio!
Gemini gets turned on as Kriskata. Nice bait there. Man, things are looking good for Deep Cross. 4 kills to 0. They will go ahead and pop Rift Herald in the middle of the jungle, in fact. And Nesty on a Predator roam, gonna look for Mission once again, forces the Valk out, and he still manages to land the taunt. The Winds of War, Hana comes in with the fear. Mission can do absolutely nothing. What a beautiful follow-up.
I actually did not expect them to have enough damage to get the finish off there, right there. So I am very surprised they were able to get that kill. Unfortunately, it's not like it's going to turn into an objective necessarily, because they did take a lot of damage, so they're forced onto a recall timer. We'll see if the side of CFO are able to take advantage, and they do start off this dragon. It's just a matter of DCG, do they want to let it go? And I think they will go ahead and let that one go, as they did have Kriskata also looking for a recall.
Yeah, Flying Oyster need to get something back for it. They should be able to without too much trouble. Hana can't exactly go over the wall, doesn't have ult, and no flash on the Hecarim, and that's perfectly okay. But as it stands, it is a significant gold lead here for Deep Cross at the 11.5-minute mark. And critically, looking where the kills are, I mean, yeah, 2 of them are on Hana, and that's okay. But 3 of them are on the Lethality Xayah. All of a sudden, Lethality, you have to be careful about what you're itemizing against, because you look at a Gwen thinking, all right, that's going to be a big threat right now. And obviously Nesty on this Galio that's going to be building at least a little bit of AP. Well, all of a sudden, Kriskata becomes a deep threat, and I love that he's gone on to a different kind of champion. We're so used to the Jinx Aphelios handshake that, we forget things like Xayah exist.
Yeah, I think... Oh, okay.
Okay, Leaky.
Stop what I'm thinking.
All right, well, that's a lot of needlework,
What's
but
DCG's thinking?
It's all a ruse. Rest thought he might have had the 1v1, but Nesty on the roam is able to get the kill. Meanwhile, Mission going to try to get something back here as he's forced to Valk away from Woody's grand entrance.
Yeah, and
6-0.
DCG find yet another good play. This was a lot of what happened in their first time around. Koala now way out of position.
Yeah, he is, and Woody is able to get a lot on the quickness right now. Hana taking a lot of damage, follow through. Can he stay alive? No, he cannot, as the shutdown comes in. Atlan from downtown on the Super Mega Death Rocket now. Nesty running for his life. I think he's going to be a dead man. And there's no way home for that, as Mission claims the kill. So, Flying Oyster get a couple back for themselves.
It looked like Koala was out of position, but fortunately Atlan was able to respond, and he gets that first reset. And at that point, like DCG, they just kind of have to run for the hills. But remember, with this composition, because you do have that Galio into the mid lane, your scaling will be hampered just a little bit. We get to see the replay here as Atlan behind everyone, but still gets a great rocket, and now Nesty is just kind of out in no man's land because of how that initial engage turned out.
Yeah, he tried to go in for the big taunt, and unfortunately nobody was really around for it. Everybody scattered after the fact anyways. So, despite DCG still having a decent lead in terms of kills, the gold game is actually closed up pretty well right now. It's only about 500 on the mark, not to mention the fact that CFO do have that first dragon. So, let's see what Deep Cross can do to try and turn this back in their favor. Little bit of early aggression that did not have a good follow-up because teams just weren't ready for it.
Yeah, and I mean, again, CFO, fantastic scaling composition, plenty of damage, and it really just comes down to how good is this dive coming in from DCG, because like the speed of engage is really, really quick, right? They have 2 ghost members, they have a Galio that can jump onto the back line with the help of friends, and then you also have Woody on this recon pick that can also engage very, very quickly from out of vision. So it's going to come down to the speed versus the power here, speed versus brawn. And I mean, for CFO, they did find themselves in a deficit in the first time around too, and again, it was about these individual laners that really outshone DCG once the team fight phase started.
And that's what CTBC have been able to trade on, right? Just really solid individual performances across all of the lanes. The kills in that fight did go the way of both Atlan and Mission. Oh, Leaky getting a little caught here in a 1v3, does find the needlework, but Gemini getting the kickback.
Who's caught?
And he's fine right now. He is caught, but no help is coming. They're going to just try to buy some time as Hana gets a free Herald, and the push for Criscata comes up top. How long can he buy? I don't know if CFO want to take this dive. No minions.
Yeah, so Leaky plays it very, very well. Gets a whole lot of damage down to a Koala. That's going to be the main engage once they get under that tower to start that tower dive. And then he also trims a lot of that wave with the last proc of his ultimate. So kills off that wave. It makes diving so much harder when you lose your main tank for that dive, and also the majority of that wave.
Right, you are. A little bit of a difficult moment for CFO to try and find something here. However, they do have the prio on the Dragon Pit, and a Hextech Drake will be spawning soon. If they can knock down this mid tower, it opens up more of the map for them. Mission leading the gold game right now. Nesty chunked out. Not a lot he can do there, but wave will finish, and this is going to be the rotation for CFO over to the pit. This could be our, honest-to-goodness, 5v5 if Deep Cross want to fight for it.
Yeah, they're going to try and fight for this. Nesty has
late.
the ultimate, has Everfrost.
Okay, Hana was looking. In fact, it's just going to force the issue with the Herald, but everybody from CFO is actually here to defend this.
I think they're still going to look for a fight here. We might see a tower dive right after this Rift Herald.
Watch Hana
through.
Trying to get the flank on down, and here he comes into the Onslaught of Shadows.
There
The dive in on the hero's entrance will be enough to take out Atlan. That's the big priority target. However, Gemini is able to get one back onto his opposite number with a tag.
They can turn.
Kick. Gemini's not done yet. Oh, he's waiting. I think he's fronting right now. Not going to happen. No, it is! Oh, I don't believe it, Gemini. He is feeling himself right now, but maybe he's gone a little too deep. Dashes over. He's fine. He's on Lee Sin. It's cool.
Okay. It's fine. But, yeah, we get to see really both sides of the coin in that fight, right? We see the speed of engage. Immediately, Hana gets around the corner. He just pops Ghost. He runs in. He jumps in. And basically, it's a bunch of chain ultimates. This comp is just so fast. However, the damage is lacking. So they don't burst enough down. Then the side of CFO, they turn around and are able to at least answer one back. So it ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. And again, it comes down to the speed of engage coming in from DCG. But they are going to be lacking a little bit of damage. So if you survive that initial engage from CFO, then you're really able to turn around. And the big factor when it comes to how reliable CFO will be able to turn is the fact that they have 2 dragons to themselves. That means they can continue to stall this game out and get to that point where they're going to be big threats.
They're pushing on 3 lanes right now. Not a whole lot that DCG can do about it. So extra gold in the pockets. Leaky going to try to stop this push down on bot. in a 1v2 situation. Does get kicked. The Mist, of course, follows with him, but
He heals
Gwen's only immune for a little while. There we go. A skip and slash looking for the 1v2. Take a little off the top for Gemini. I think he doesn't want to take this any further.
No mana, though. He's low
this
on
could
mana.
be rough. Oh, dodge
okay.
the rocket. My goodness. So it ends up being a 1 for none. Yeah, you know, a point you were making, Nightstar, earlier, I think really did show itself in that last fight. Hana goes in with the Onslaught of Shadows, and the combo comes in from Nesty, but he only nails, I think, 1 or 2 members because the Fear has them scattering. It is kind of the anti-combo, and you have to be careful about your timing because of that.
Yeah, you do have to be a little bit weary of that combination, of course, but also adding that magic damage shield helps out the front line being able to endure some of the damage coming out from the Corki. But afterwards, they kind of have to run for the hills because then if the Corki does survive, those rockets are doing a lot of damage along with those Jinx rockets. So the double rocket combination that we should have seen a lot more because of how prevalent Jinx has been in our league. You know, we're getting a nice display of it right now. Even though they are, you know, combined 2 and 5 at the moment.
For now. I mean, yeah, we talked about how this is such a hyperscaling team anyways, right? Because Deep Cross are a little bit more locked into the type of engage they want. I think critically, Kriskata becomes a lot more important as this game goes on as well. We got off to a great start, but now Atlan's kind of starting to catch back up. We'll see if this dive works out here, as there's a lot of investment between Woody and Hana. I don't think they're going to be able to get there in time. Rest is just a little too mobile, but this is enough to secure this tower for Leaky. So Deep Cross try to turn a little, open up a bit more of the map for themselves, and as we've crested this 20-minute mark, game state fairly even considering the early lead that Deep Cross got out to.
This game definitely has slowed down considerably for the side of Deep Cross, and that is slightly concerning because, of course, you are running essentially quad dive composition, so again, damage does become a bit of a concern as the game moves on, and CFO are the ones in charge of the dragon count at the moment, which means that DCG can't fall back on a dragon soul as a secondary win condition. They do just need to find that one big team fight at around this next dragon.
They got to get in position to make it happen. It's a little bit blind right there as they don't have a whole lot of ward coverage. Most of their wards being invested in the Baron side of the map. There's going to be one down in the back of the pit from Woody. But
Woody, big flank.
Yeah, this is big right now if he can get a solid quickness. However, who's flanking who? They've actually got the catch on, and it is going to be a huge root down. Hana can't quite get what he wanted to. Atlan does manage to make it away, and DCG, they're caught in the choke point right now, but not enough damage from CFO. Leaky still looking for an opening. Gets caught himself trying to bait this one out. And nobody gets tagged by Nesty. However, on the back half, they do get Koala. Leaky opens up here. It's a 5v4. As the Flame Choppers get thrown out, it's actually going to be the back from Leaky, so it becomes a straight-up 4v4. Hana would love to go for the steal here. And then goes the quickness. He's going to try. Steals it away to reset the Drake timer. Now can they win the fight? As
Leaky's
the teleport is almost in. Woody tanking damage, getting the root down on, and Leaky starts to cut him down to size. But that is a good split here for CFO as they look to try and turn yet again. Low health bars. They can't fully commit. Those rockets going to look like easy pickings, and in goes Gemini for a massive 2 kick. And I think Deep Cross are heading for the hills right now. Hana is bleeding on his health bar as he just gets out. Even the minions could kill him at this point.
Oh my god, Gemini gets a massive play. He goes in, gets the kick, yet. And then he got such a massive Gore Drinker proc. It looked like he was going in on a suicide mission, but he gets the Gore Drinker and he heals back up to essentially 2/3 HP. We have to see that fight replay once more, but at the very least, DCG, they are able to secure the dragon, which staves off a soul point at the very least. But man, this fight was so back and forth. CFO played this so well by playing their ranges, and now DCG, they're kind of trapped in this choke point, and I mean, Quad kind of helps them out there, but look at the amount of effort they expend just to kill the support here. They use a lot of cooldowns on that play, and now for the dragon, it really just comes down to, well, we'll just go ahead and get the steal. If we get the steal, that's great. And really, after that, it felt like, okay, with Leaky coming in with the TP, we have the numbers advantage, but CFO is really just showcases their own firepower.
Not only that, it showcased how incredibly slippery they are, and Gemini comes in. Boom. What a kick! What a combo!
Oh my god.
That was incredible. Almost deleted Hana, too, off the back. You saw that rocket just barely didn't do enough. Yeah, that damage number doesn't necessarily reflect how much the Lee Sin was doing there. So Deep Cross are fighting into a very dangerous position as it is shifted focus up towards the Baron pit right now.
And this just highlights why you pick Corki. He does 4,000 damage. Like, DCG, they just can't pressure this man. It's really up to Mission on his own positioning, and that really just determines the fight. Like, all he has to do, stay safe, be conservative, doesn't have to overforce a lot of things. You already see, instead of just staying on that Hex Drinker, he's actually gone and completed the Maw Mortius, which adds that additional Omnivamp once you get down to low HP, but really it's about those larger magic damage shields.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously Criscata is still a threat on the lethality build, but you are starting to look at, like, what the Gwen can dish out. You know, the Galio can do a little bit of damage as well. You just want to, like, withstand that. As long as you stay alive, your uptime is really what matters as this Corki. And Mission is doing exactly what he needs to in this game. It's very, very tense right now. Deep Cross still holding on to a slim gold lead. I think that Dragon Steel bought them some time here. Ooh, a very close call. Woody almost gets tagged by Koala Zenith Blade, but is able to dodge out of it. Yeah, I really love that CFO has such a slippery team comp, right? It's very hard for them to get completely tagged by, like, the Nesty Hana combo.
Koala?
Although Koala steps a little too far forward here, and that opens up some damage for Criscata. That might be all there is, though, with the push coming in a couple lanes here. Deep Cross are zoning out CFO.
Alright, I've seen that way too many times, where Koala walks up because he wants to put a deep lane ward, perhaps for either teleport reasons or just to get a vision onto mid, and he almost just commits a massive blunder here. But as a result, because of that recall timer, they don't have the additional wards to put down onto Baron, so the side of DCG, they go ahead and start this. However, because it is lethality, Zaya, it means that this Baron take is incredibly, incredibly slow. That's why CFO, they don't need to respond immediately because they know there's not a whole lot of damage. They have to get some sort of big third, or I guess fourth item now, onto Leaky before it's really feasible. They need either that Demonic Embrace or that Gnasher's Tooth to actually deal damage, because right now this build on the Gwen feels more of a utility build rather than a big assassination threat sort of build.
Yeah, they want the matching on at least some consistent damage, or at least setting up for Criscata. Unfortunately, the back timers does mean that this is a pretty free Dragon take for CFO, so now they may be a little bit later on that. They actually send a rocket out just in case there was a sneaky Baron. Atlan, I suppose it never hurts to check.
Yeah, and CFO, really, they're in full control of this game. Yes, they're only a 100 gold ahead, but they have 3 dragons to their name. They have scaling advantage to their name. There's no threat onto the Baron because of DCG's composition. So they get to play the game however which way they want at the moment. So they're going to just slow this game down, and we're not going to see anything happen for another 4.5 minutes. At least it should. Unless some sort of pick comes down onto Gemini or DCG try and force. But again, they don't do this quickly.
No, they don't. It's only at about 9,000. This is going to be a straight-up flip if they want to take it right now. Woody waiting. They want the turn. Gemini is going to face check straight into Nesty, but they're still on the Baron. Now they turn the kickback. Leaky. Gemini goes in. It's not smiteable right now, but he's stuck in the back of the pick, and he can safeguard. That's the shutdown. Baron's still
now
up.
It's possible.
They can take this. They can turn the fight, Nightstar. It's going down, but can they turn it around as Mission still healthy, dishing out the rockets on the Gatling gun. Hana goes in. Onslaught of Shadows, forced into the flash. The wombo, the combo. Criscata opens up on a Mission, and they're flying forward with the Justice Punch. He might be rooted, but guess what? Gwen is immune to all of your damage, and they will will take a few more kills.
And there we go. I said the only way for them to actually get this Baron is if they find a pick onto Gemini. That's the smite down, and they're able to go ahead and then finish the job. Now they're going to go ahead and push down mid. They should be able to get that inhib. I don't know if they'll be able to get the game, but if they kill Atlan, they certainly can try.
I don't know if they're going to go for it just yet, but whoa, they certainly are. Even with the heal, straight up into the taunt, killing him
there
on the
we
Featherstorm.
go. They can
Gemini,
try now.
They're going to go for it right here. Gemini will try to be the hero that his team needs, but he gets pinballed left and right. And as the conga line of CFO players try to save the game, it's going to be Deep Cross on one heck of a Baron flip.
Man, it only just took one moment, but DCG, they're able to identify these small moments and immediately just flip the game script there. CFO, they were in full control, but then that mistake by Koala, he walks up mid for really no reason. He wants that deep ward, again, for no reason. He gets chunked out. He's forced to recall. That means they can't apply vision over to Baron. Then it really just snowballs all out of control from there. Like, DCG, great play calling. This is what we praise about this team. And yes, in those team fight moments, they did struggle, but once things got hectic, they were really, this is a team that truly thrives in that chaos.
Yeah, and I think CFO were a team that looked a little less comfortable in it. They had the edge, they had the scaling in their favor, and Deep Cross knew that their time was running out, so they make the big play, and man, did it pay off. Sometimes flipping the Baron, is enough to win you the game, but not only did they do that, they just kind of let Gemini walk up, sniff around the side, and what an incredible setup to do it. Here's this play again. Nesty is waiting. His entire job is to just make sure Gemini does not get to smite. And Gemini's like, all right, I'm kicking you out of here. But he didn't count on the damage coming in from Leaky, and all of a sudden he's stuck in the back of the Baron pit. And it feels like this is the moment that it's like, oh, we need to leave right now. But they were a little too slow to do it.
Yeah, and again, the speed of engage, especially when things get hectic here and you're sitting on the back foot, that's where the speed really surprises you. And they were able to catch him off guard and find that finishing blow. Whew! What a wild game, Pyra.
Yeah, that was incredible. I think Deep Cross really playing around the tools that they had. They this time they timed the Onslaught of Shadows really well to get a pick, and then comboed up on the quickness, the battle dance into that big hero's entrance. It was, honestly, just beautiful play for DCG, and a great bounce back after their loss against PSG Talon, as they will go out a 1-1 on the day. And for CFO, they go 0-3. I did not expect that to be happening coming into this week.
They are slipping, Pyra. So
just a little bit.
They've got a lot to answer for next week. So, whew,
still high up on the standings, but yeah, I think teams have started to figure out a formula to deal with them. We did see the difference in decisiveness on display here. I think Deep Cross, even if the call might not always be the correct one, they're willing to make the play. They're on the same page as a squad, yes. And we didn't quite see that out of Flying Oyster, and I think that's something that this team is going to have to work on if they want to recapture that top spot.
Yeah, and I mean, as of right now, it looks like we just have a clear top two, and everyone else is left trying to catch up. Of course, that can sort of change if J-Team really show up against some of these top teams as well, but they've also shown some faults when it comes to dealing with the other teams in that top four.
Absolutely. I think we've got a number of teams really jockeying for that position, but it's starting to flesh itself out as to who is going to be ruling the roost. And here is the gold game. It was kept pretty close for a while, and it did seem like it was going to be CFO favored once they started to dip back in. But man, all it took was that fight. What a beautiful combo. Also, at this point, Leaky starts to pop up. Yeah, he was building more utility, but he still dished the consistent damage, and so did the Xayah from Kriskata. I love that we're seeing some more of these AD carries in the mix. They weren't afraid to let the Aphelios get banned because they had a game plan.
Yeah, and more teams need to understand that I think Jinx is still S, but Aphelios is not in that same tier. Absolutely not. There are so many other options below the Jinx that they can opt into. Again, if it ended up being Sivir, I think that also would have been really, really good because you can play very similar to the Lethality Xayah. So I think DCG are starting to come around to it. Maybe it took that loss with the Aphelios to also be like, let's look at other options. But at the very least, they did look at other options.
Yeah, I have just been so thoroughly impressed with Kriskata as a rookie player coming in. He's played all of the meta and more. Has looked very good in a stacked field up against Atlan this time around. Definitely got the jump on him in a number of situations, and really good play with Woody as well. But it is Nesty who will earn our MVP with just dropping out of the sky on the Gargoyle. He may have had a rough landing phase against the likes of Mission, but when it counted, he was where he needed to be, and that was all over the map.
Nesty, he was truly the field general. He led the troops, and he was on the front lines as well. Like, this is everything you could want from I would say your in-game leader, as you would find in a tactical shooter, but he is pretty much that for DCG.
Looked pretty tactical to me, and I really love that this guy is bringing a different style of mid lane play. We've seen the Enchanters, we've seen some unorthodox champions. I think the Galio fit in well with what this comp was trying to do, and Deep Cross take a well-earned win on some incredibly decisive play. That's 2 games down, and they've been absolute barn burners. I think we've got another one coming up after this Nightstar. It is going to be a great time. We'll go on break, and when we return, Mega Bank Beyond Gaming take on J-Team.